Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, best bets video for the PFL World Tournament, round one matchups for the light heavyweights and heavyweights this week. And one thing can be rest assured, Ian Parker is desperate and he is borrowing money from his buddies. But here on the Ground and Pound podcast, we're going to put some money in your wallets this week. We're going to talk parlays, we're going to talk props, we're going to talk money lines. And without further ado, let's get right in to the parlay of the week. So kicking things off, we have Simeon Powell, and I like him in this matchup here against Carl Ulbrichtsen. And I like Powell for a few different reasons, but the main one here is that the athleticism and the speed of Powell is going to give Carl a lot of trouble, especially on the feet. We've seen with Simeon Powell that he has a huge reach advantage in most of his fights. In this one, it's going to be close to 10 inches of reach. I think that's going to be a lot for Carl to overcome, especially on the feet. When it comes to Powell, he does fight behind a jab very nicely. He does time 1-2s down the pipe. He is very game. He is very live on the feet to get a knockout here. And we've seen with Carl Ulbrichtsen in the past that when he fights people who are sort of the same speed and the same athleticism as him, he can hang in there, he can mix in wrestling, he can strike. But when he goes against people who are much more athletic, much faster on the feet and have much faster hands, he tends to struggle. He tends to not necessarily leave his chin up in the air, but he just gets touched up. And I think that the reach advantage here and the hand speed of Powell is going to be all she wrote. And I wouldn't be surprised here if Powell does get the knockout. We have also seen in the past with Powell that when he does get in trouble and he needs to clear the cobwebs, he will clinch. I don't necessarily see Carl Ulbrichtsen having that much to offer him on the feet. I think it's nothing that Powell hasn't seen in the past. And I just think that Carl's going to have a tough time getting through that reach of Powell. So give me Powell here in the first leg of our confident parlay to kick us off. And the next leg and the second leg of the parlay, we have Oleg Popov. And Popov, 19-2, wrestle heavy style, very much a grinding wrestler, but he also has decent boxing. He does a good job of setting up his hands, and I think a lot of people are fearful of the takedown, which is why they kind of bring their hands down when they think that he's going to shoot in for their legs, and he ends up coming upstairs with the overhands and the nice left hook. And I think in this style matchup against Carl Williams, I think he's probably the better striker out of the two. We've seen with Carl Williams in the UFC, he pretty much just heavily wrestles. We haven't seen a whole lot of his striking. It's very basic. He just kind of sticks with the 1-2, and you can tell that he's not comfortable on the feet. Popov, bounces in and out of range. He looks very comfortable on the feet, but ultimately he does want to get these fights to the ground. And I think out of the two, even if both of these guys wrestling counteracts each other, and this kind of is a stand-up affair, on the feet, I still like Popov here to get it done. And I just have to add a little cherry on the top there that Carl Williams is also taking this fight on 4 days' notice, so he hasn't had a full camp here. So even if there is a lot of wrestling involved, I have to question Carl Williams' cardio here. And I don't think he's going to be able to get Popov to the ground that easy and be able to do that for 3 consecutive rounds here without gassing out. So give me Popov here in our second leg of our confident parlay that gets us started on this card for our best bets video. And first money line that I really like this week, we have Sergey Belastoni. I've been butchering that name all week, but I like him in this style matchup here against Moldavsky. Although Moldavsky is a very talented fighter, Moldavsky is trained by Fedor Emelianenko. I honestly think that Sergey's looked really, really impressive. And obviously, if you're interested in a more deeper breakdown, check out our full card breakdown that we did. But I think the keys to victory here for Sergey as a plus 140 underdog is just to keep this fight at kicking range. He has fantastic kicks. You'll see in one of his fights that he lands multiple spinning back kicks to the body. And then once the opponent starts to bring his hands down, once he goes for that spin, they bring the hands down to protect the body. He goes upstairs with a wheel kick. The guy can also grapple as well, which I really like. He has a great heel hook victory recently as well. And also to talk about his kicks, I think his calf kick is super heavy. And Moldavsky loves to have sort of like a boxing stance. He likes to be very heavy on that front leg so that he can get his boxing going. I think Sergey would be beneficial here to chew up that lead leg, really attack the calf with his heavy low calf kicks, and also just make sure that he's really all the way in and all the way out in this matchup. We want to see him at kicking range or all the way in at the clinch, letting his hands go. We don't want him to stand at boxing range here and allow Moldavsky to get off with his boxing, with his jab, and kind of get going. I reckon here, if Sergey keeps this fight at kicking range, he'll have a lot of success here in the co-main event, and he's kicking things off with our money line here, plus 140. I like Sergey to get it done here with the kicks, and we never know. We might see a knockout here. He's looked pretty good. He's had a lot of finishes, so hopefully this fight should be fireworks, and hopefully it puts some money in our wallets this week. And next up, we have Phil Davis in the main event taking on Rob Wilkinson. And I like Phil Davis here, even though he is 40 years old. Phil Davis is an absolute savage. He is an absolute physical specimen. The guy is very, very athletic, even at the age of 40. And I think here, to be honest with you, his keys to victory is to wrestle early. He is a national champion out of Penn State. The guy is a very, very credentialed wrestler. And he only really loses to some of the high-level guys. I think Corey Anderson, Nemkov is another guy, and Ryan Bader is another guy that he's lost to. So he only loses to the best of the best. And wrestling out of Penn State, I think he'll probably have the wrestling advantage in this matchup. So I'd like to see him wrestle early against Rob Wilkinson. Not necessarily always going for takedowns, but just present that threat there to kind of make Rob have to think about it on the feet. And also as well, stay out of the clinch. So if he does wrestle and he isn't able to get the takedown, don't necessarily sit there in the clinch. We've seen with Rob Wilkinson that he has nice knees in the clinch. He has nice uppercuts. What's his name? Dan Hardy did a whole breakdown this week on the PFL's YouTube channel talking about how good Wilkinson is in the clinch. So I'd like to see Davis go for the takedown, but not necessarily spend a whole lot of time in the clinch. I think that's where Rob Wilkinson will thrive. And just basically look to counter. I think if Rob Wilkinson does decide to come forward and let his hands go, I think Davis has the faster hands. He's the more athletic guy. If he kind of keeps this fight at range and keeps his space and waits for Wilkinson to throw some sort of sloppy shot or to throw his hands, counter off of those, we've seen in the past where he's been able to land hooks and, dart into range and let his hands go and find the chin of many fighters. He has snappy kicks as well. I'd like to see him end combinations with kicks and ultimately just wait for his opponent to come to him. I think that'll be beneficial for him in the striking in this style matchup. And I like him here as a plus 130 underdog here to get it done against Rob Wilkinson. And Rob Wilkinson hasn't really looked the same since he's had that no contest for popping for steroids. So I think Davis comes in here, gets the job done, and he only loses to the creme de la creme. And I think he gets it done here in the main event to kick us off with our money lines here. And also we have Abraham Babley, and this money line that you see here, the odds, the minus 116 currently, that is actually his money line. If you take him KO or decision, I think we'll probably get closer to even money. Unfortunately, due to the fact the sports books don't put out the props and the method of victories and things like that until later on, I'm not able to give you that right now for the video. Obviously, I want you guys to be able to place this ahead of time so you can get the best odds possible. But I like him KO or decision here against Rodrigo Nascimento. And the reason I like Babley in this style matchup here is I think that he has heavy calf kicks. We've seen with Nascimento, he does stand quite upright, doesn't necessarily throw a ton of kicks himself. So I think just a kind of a weapon that Babley can use as he is the shorter fighter is just to chew up that calf. We obviously have seen with Nascimento, he likes to box. He likes to keep things on the feet for the most part. He doesn't tend to use his jiu-jitsu anymore. So I think chewing up his lead leg, I think that'll be a good game plan here instead of darting in and out of range. It's something that he can do in order to cause damage from a distance as the shorter fighter. I think forward pressure is going to be the big factor in this whole fight for both guys. I think if you're the one moving forward in this style matchup, I think that's going to be the person that's going to be winning. I think that the pressure against the cage here, as far as backing Nascimento up, having him fight on the back foot is going to stop him shooting for takedowns. I think Babley is the faster striker, the more athletic guy here. I think he can dart in and out of range. So for me, he needs to be all the way in or all the way out because he does have the reach disadvantage in this matchup, which he has pretty much in all of his fights, being a 5'10 heavyweight. But he is very, very athletic and very speedy with the hands. So I'd like to see him dart in and out here in order to land his hands and also mix in the wrestling if he wants to. If he wants to take this fight to the ground and get on top and land ground and pound, I think he can do that as well. But I like him here, KO or decision, just to get a little bit of extra value. But if you want to take his money line there at minus 116, I don't blame you either. But I like Babley here in this matchup to get it done against the former UFC fighter in Rodrigo Nascimento. And that brings us to our props, and we have Kyle Moore by decision. Now, obviously, you see the question marks on your screen. I can't give you those prop prices currently because they are not available. When they are, check them out. I like Kyle Moore here against Antonio Carlos Jr. We've seen with Moore, he's very, very tough to take down. I think he's the much more physically strong, much more physically dominant fighter in this style matchup. Antonio Carlos Jr. seems to struggle to get bigger guys to the ground, especially early. I think out of the two, Kyle Moore's striking is definitely the better out of the two. I think once he defends takedowns, shoe face, that's Antonio Carlos Jr. for those that don't know. I think he'll definitely get lit up on the feet by Kyle Moore. Antonio Carlos Jr. will probably shoot and reshoot, so I don't necessarily see him getting chinned here by Moore. I think it goes to a decision. I think Moore wins on the judges' scorecards based on damage here. The number shouldn't be too pricey. I'm hoping somewhere around plus 200. If you can get anything more than that, I think that's a steal. But give me Kyle Moore here by decision as our first prop on the Best Bets video. And I like Rafael Xavier here to get a knockout. And he's fighting a guy called Pelosi. And now Pelosi, he is a credentialed wrestler, but he is super, super hittable on the feet. I believe it's something like 3 out of his 4 losses have all come via knockout. And Rafael is a Brazilian champion in Muay Thai, national champion in Muay Thai, excuse me. And the guy can absolutely crack. We have seen when he fought Simeon Powell in one of his previous fights that he dropped Simeon Powell with a front kick. He dropped him with a left hook all in the first round. He can be a little bit low volume because he does tend to have that Muay Thai style of throwing one at a time. But I like him here to get a KO. If we can get, again, plus 200, plus 300 from a guy that's main method of losing fights is to be chinned and knocked out, and another guy who has, cracks like a beast, to be honest with you. I think he's got some of the hardest hitting hands in the PFL. I think he can get it done here, whether it's a knockout with the kicks or whether it's a knockout with the hands. I think he's live. Pelosi doesn't really move his head a whole lot. He's going to be shooting for takedowns. I don't necessarily think that Xavier is going to have a tough time defending the takedowns here. Give me Xavier here to get the knockout. And if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. And just to let you know what we have coming up on the channel, we have the Best Bets video for the UFC Des Moines card with Sandhagen taking on Davidson Figueiredo. That is going to be live tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that if you're trying to get some money and some bets for for Saturday's fight card in Des Moines. That's the video for you. And also check out our recap video. We do a full card recap on each UFC event that comes out on Sundays. Keep an eye out for that. And it's a very, very chill video. Just two guys talking about what we've seen, giving our analysis, giving out our thoughts and feelings on some of the referees and judges' scorecards. And like I said, very, very chill and relaxed. And like I said, if you're enjoying the content here on the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll leave the full card breakdown for the PFL in the description. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.